Page 6 now, the elections in Israel. The right-wing Likud party, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is in a tough fight to retain its leadership. The leftist Zionist Union Party has polled even according to recent polling. Other polling has the leftists ahead. Netanyahu says there is a real danger if he is not reelected.
The possibility is that if we don't close the gap between Labor and Likud, then Bougie and Tzipi Livni will form a government, a left government, backed by the Arabs that will retreat along all fronts. They'll go back to the 67 lines, they'll divide Jerusalem, they'll agree to this horrendous deal that is being hatched up that will enable Iran to go to the bomb. I think there's a real danger for the state of Israel and the land of Israel, and I call on everyone in the national camp and English-speaking Israeli voters, go to the polls and vote for the one party that will change it.
Meantime, leftist Isaac Herzog is promising to repair ties with the Palestinians and bring relief to the country's struggling middle class.
The one who divided Jerusalem up until now has been Netanyahu. The one who gave in to the murderers has been Netanyahu. Sorry, but with all due respect, he has released the terrorists of Hamas. I believe in the big settlement blocks under Israeli sovereignty. I have said repeatedly that Gush Etzion, as far as I'm concerned, is our home, much like here in Tel Aviv. But in order to have it under our sovereignty, I have to try to reach a rational separation from the Palestinians.
The election is set for Tuesday. Meantime, in this country, it's good to be an ex-leader of your party and your country. How so? Joining me now, author, speaker, strategic consultant, and Daily Ledger contributor, T.J. O'Hara. T.J., for the 42nd president, we're paying for a lot of stuff right now. Everything from pensions to, of course, Secret Service protection to, I don't know, what have you for Bill Clinton.
Well, he gets travel, he gets benefit, his personnel that surround him are paid for, to the tune of about $16 billion since he left office in 2001. Now, you have to kind of roll the tape back to 1958. When Eisenhower was inaugurated, Harry and Bess Truman loaded up the car, drove back to Missouri, no support whatsoever from the government, and they were living on Harry's $112.57 per month pension from the Army. So in 1958, he was kind of in danger of almost going bankrupt because he refused to take corporate board positions. He thought it was demeaning to the presidency and that people only wanted him in those positions because of his stature as a former president. And also turned down late in his life an opportunity to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor because he said, I was just doing my job. That's a combat honor, and it shouldn't be bestowed upon a president. Now, roll the tape forward to the Clintons, who have never seen a dollar or an award they don't like.
Yeah.
You have the president get $16 million in taxpayer funds since leaving office. At the same time, he got a $15 million advance for his memoirs in 2008. He has already raised more than $106 million in speaking fees. So you kind of wonder, why do we need to do this? Now, add to the fact that this is a dual-income family, you know, who's in touch with reality. Hillary got a $14 million advance for her recent memoirs, and her hard choices, I don't think, compared to Truman's. And then she has raised, in the 16 months she's been out of office, over $12 million. So her run rate right now is about $750,000 a month. What's interesting is taxpayer funds have also gone to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation. And they've gone to raise the employees' wages, and they've also gone, almost $1 million of taxpayer funds have gone for new equipment and communication things. What do you have foreign governments for? Just lob a call over to Saudi Arabia and ask them to fund it instead of the taxpayers.
Well, now, come on now. They need all this money to pay for new servers because the old servers are at the bottom of a lake or a river somewhere. We all know that. And, of course, Bill Clinton needs that Secret Service protection to protect him from Hillary. So I think it's all money well spent. Now, illegal immigrants in this country. There are laws on the books right now, TJ, that say it is illegal to hire an illegal immigrant. And oh, by the way, of course, if you're an illegal, you're not allowed to get a Social Security number. That is, unless you try and get one on the black market. That can be done. But now, under Barack Obama, the 44th president, all this has changed.
Well, what's interesting, this is one of those examples where we have a stroke of the pen on an executive order or a congressional bill that we don't read before we pass it. if you don't take a look at connecting the dots of what happens as a result, you run into a situation like this. There's a Congressional Research Service connects the dots, and they just submitted a memo to the Department of Justice, or I should say the Senate Judiciary Committee the other day, that said that beyond what you and I discussed a few weeks ago of people being able to go back, the people who are here under the new amnesty approach, able to go back and recover tax money, even from years when they didn't pay file a return, they now can file for a work permit. Well, once you file for a work permit, you can get a driver's license. Once you get a driver's license, you can get a Social Security number. This center went back and did the research and found out as a result, connecting those dots, you now can file for Social Security. And if you file for Social Security, you can also go back in arrears to the years that you weren't paying anything into it. So, you look towards citizenship and what it used to mean, the honor of that status, and you kind of wonder, how do you distinguish that from somebody who just carelessly wanders over the border?
Is this a great country or what? I mean, you can get back taxes and you haven't even paid any taxes. This is just stunning. Now, the government itself, there are watchdog groups out there that kind of keep score in terms of how well our federal government disseminates information when we request it, i.e. a FOIA request. And they've come out with a chart grading certain departments and agencies, and I'm happy to report, and you're going to expand on this, that the Department of Agriculture, the very important Department of Agriculture that applies to all of us 310, 315 million Americans, is at the head of the class with a B.
That's correct. I mean, outstanding. They actually survey 15 agencies that receive more than 90% of the FOIA requests. And I happen to have their scorecard here. And as you said, Department of Agriculture leads it. Social Security got a B-. Now, when you think about that, those two departments aren't the types of things that keep you awake at night, but it gets better. With a C, somewhat surprisingly, in my opinion, the Department of Justice came in. Maybe they investigated themselves, I'm not sure. You have, with C-, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, National Archives and Records Administration. Again, not really earth-shattering agencies, but this is where it gets interesting. Dropping down to a D+, you have the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Treasury. Dropping down to a D, you have the EPA, Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Department of Labor. Now it gets even more interesting because getting down to a D-, barely above failure, you have the Department of Defense and the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's pretty significant. But bringing up the rear, my two favorites, at 57%, you have the Department of Health and Human Services. You know, the one that's in charge of the Affordable Care Act. And then absolutely, almost abysmally performing is the Department of State at 37%. This is the group, of course, that's responsible for preventing a nuclear Iran. So I can give you about 18 trillion reasons why this should disturb us and we deserve better. The reality is what's really scary, 8 of these 15 actually improved this year.
Amazing. Well, those FOIA requests for Department of State, they're on Hillary's server. So that's all we have to do is get her server. TJ, thanks.